Ladies and gentlemen, today we are diving deep into one of the most misunderstood dynamics in relationships. Why, if she truly loves you, she might ignore you? It sounds like a contradiction, doesn't it? We've been taught that love is shown through presence, through affection, attention, and words. But love, real love, doesn't always wear a smile or show up with flowers. Sometimes it steps back in silence. Not to harm, but to reveal, not to abandon, but to test the ground on which it stands. A woman's silence is not always absence. It is often a mirror, reflecting the depth of your own presence. And in that silence, she's not listening to your words. She's feeling your energy. She's asking, without asking, if your peace depends on her validation, or if your stillness can exist on its own. Her emotions, layered and instinctive, don't always speak in logic. They speak in energy. They retreat not out of malice, but out of a primal need to feel something unshakable, something real. And here's the truth most men miss. If you react from fear, you confirm her doubts. But if you remain composed, if you hold your ground, not to prove something, but because it's who you are, she will feel that. She will remember that. So if you're the kind of man who's ready to stop chasing noise and start cultivating presence, if you're done reacting and ready to rise, then this is where your path begins. Welcome to Stoic Station. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join a brotherhood of men who choose calm over chaos, depth over drama, and truth over temporary validation. Let's begin. 1. The power of silence and non-reaction. There's a kind of silence that isn't absence. It's a mirror. And when a woman who loves you goes quiet, it's not always because she's leaving. Sometimes it's because she's listening, not to you, but to the echo of your presence when her voice is no longer filling the space. This moment can be unsettling. Your instincts may scream to act, to send a message, to ask what's wrong, to fix whatever feels broken. But before you reach, before you react, pause, because this isn't a problem to solve. It's an invitation to reveal who you truly are when things aren't going your way. A woman's silence, especially when there's love involved, is rarely random. It may be confusion, it may be emotion she doesn't yet have the words for, but more often than not, it is a quiet question. Can you still be centered when I am not close? Can you hold steady when my warmth fades into distance? Can you stay rooted in your own power, even when the ground beneath you feels unfamiliar? The truth is, most men fail this test, not because they're unworthy, but because they don't understand what's really being asked of them. They take the silence personally. They panic, spiral, grasp for certainty. They mistake her emotional retreat for rejection, and in doing so, they reveal that their peace was never truly theirs. It was something they borrowed from her presence. But the man who understands the rhythm of connection doesn't flinch. He knows that relationships, like tides, ebb and flow. He doesn't beg for reassurance or rush to repair something that may not be broken. Instead, he becomes a still point in her chaos. Not because he's indifferent, but because he's composed. He trusts himself, and he trusts her process. This isn't coldness, it's strength. There is something deeply powerful about a man who can remain calm in the middle of emotional fog, who doesn't chase every shift in energy, who isn't thrown off balance every time she turns inward. This kind of man doesn't speak loudly to prove his presence. He lets the absence of reaction speak for him. And that silence, it resounds. She notices. Even if she says nothing, even if she keeps her distance longer, somewhere inside, she feels the difference. She senses that you are not emotionally dependent on her response to define your day, that your sense of value wasn't built on her affection, but on something deeper, something unshakable. You are not standing still hoping to be seen. You are simply standing, rooted, calm, whole. This is the type of man who commands respect without needing to demand it. The kind of presence a woman cannot ignore for long, not because he pressures her to return, but because his energy lingers long after he's gone. She may have pulled away to create space, but in that space, your grounded presence can still be felt. And it's in this contrast, between the chaos of her emotions and the stability of your posture, that real desire begins to grow. Because love isn't built on perfect alignment at all times. It's built on trust. And trust begins when she sees that you don't crumble the moment she withdraws, that your peace isn't a performance to win her approval, but a truth you live with or without it. Your non-reaction becomes the most intimate kind of communication. It tells her, I am not afraid of your silence. I am not shaken by your distance. I do not need you to come closer in order to stay grounded. This is rare, and because it is rare, it is magnetic. Most men try to fill the silence because they're uncomfortable with their own. But you use the silence as a proving ground, as a quiet declaration that says, I am not here to chase fleeting moments of affection. I am here to offer something steady, something real. And if she truly loves you, she will feel the gravity of that. She will see that your presence doesn't vanish when things get uncertain, that your strength is not loud, but lasting. And in time, she will return. Not because you pulled her back, but because you gave her the freedom to find her way and the assurance that you'd still be standing when she did. This is the power of silence. This is the power of not reacting. And this, more than any words, shows her the depth of the man she's drawn to. 2. Attraction comes from energy, not words. There's a quiet truth that most men never fully grasp. The deepest form of attraction isn't something you say, it's something you are. It's not in the lines you rehearse, the compliments you offer, or even the affection you pour out through grand gestures. It's in the space between words, in the way you walk into a room without needing to dominate it, in the way you look at her without needing a reaction in return, in the way your presence makes her feel something she can't quite explain, but never forgets. A woman doesn't fall for the man who talks the most. She falls for the man whose energy lingers in the room after he's gone. Your energy is your essence. It's the emotional frequency you radiate when you're not trying to impress anyone. And women, especially women who are emotionally intelligent, self-aware and intuitive, can feel it. They may not always know how to articulate what they're sensing, but they know when they're in the presence of a man who is aligned, composed, and internally at peace. They also know just as quickly when that peace is an illusion, when it's something you fake in hopes of being chosen. Attraction isn't a negotiation. You don't earn it through effort. You don't manufacture it through performance. And you certainly don't create it by over-explaining your worth or trying to convince her to see you a certain way. Real attraction arises when a woman feels a man's wholeness, when she senses that he's enough within himself, that he doesn't need her admiration to feel secure, but he still values the connection for what it could become. Most men make the mistake of thinking they need to do more, talk more, show more, prove more, when in truth, the more they push, the more they dilute the very presence that might have intrigued her in the first place. You don't need to fill the silence with words. Let the silence speak for you. Let your energy do the work. Let her feel you rather than hear you. There's something incredibly powerful about a man who knows how to sit with space, who doesn't rush to fill every gap with noise or validation. That kind of man exudes confidence, not through what he does, but through what he doesn't feel the need to do. His restraint becomes magnetic. His calm becomes a mystery she wants to understand. Not because he's playing games, but because he's playing no games at all. He's just being. And in a world full of men trying to impress, trying to please, trying to win, the man who simply is, who stands firm in his identity and lets life unfold without grasping, becomes unforgettable. This doesn't mean you're cold. It doesn't mean you lack passion or interest. It means that your presence is steady, not needy, engaged, not desperate, present, but not dependent. That kind of energy makes a woman feel safe, not smothered, curious, not cautious. It invites her in instead of making her feel cornered. And that's the difference. She doesn't want a man who tries to earn her through performance. She wants a man whose essence naturally calls her closer. A man whose energy creates space, space where she can step in freely without being pulled, pushed, or persuaded. That space, that openness grounded in confidence, is where real connection is born. If she steps back, let her. Don't rush to reclaim her attention. Don't try to fix a silence that isn't broken. Sometimes the most profound shift happens not when you try harder, but when you simply allow yourself to be seen without forcing visibility. Let her wonder what's on your mind. Let her feel your absence, not as a punishment, but as a reminder that your life is full, rich, and meaningful, with or without her immediate presence. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about being hard to shake. When your life has depth, when your soul is anchored in purpose, when your values are lived rather than preached, when your confidence is quiet rather than loud, she will feel that. She may not always know why she thinks about you when you're not around, or why your presence feels different from other men she's known, but she'll feel it, she'll remember it, and she'll crave it. Because the man who radiates presence, who walks with quiet certainty, who doesn't need to chase what's meant for him, is the man she won't forget. So speak when it adds value. Express yourself when it comes from truth. But don't chase connection through constant communication. Let your energy speak first, and trust that the right woman will hear it long before you say a word. 3. Self-worth does not depend on love. There is a quiet strength in a man who knows who he is, before, during, and after love. A man whose sense of identity is not shaped by the affection he receives, but by the foundation he has already laid within himself. That kind of man doesn't fear losing love, because he never confused love with validation in the first place. It's easy, almost natural, for a man to build his sense of worth around the woman he loves, especially when the connection is deep, the laughter is real, and the intimacy feels like home. You start to feel more alive in her presence, more seen, more purposeful, and without even realizing it, your happiness begins to orbit around her approval. Her smile becomes your reward, her attention your oxygen, her silence your undoing. But here's the truth that many men don't learn until it's too late. The moment you make her the source of your self-worth, you give her the power to define it and to take it away. She was never meant to carry that weight. No one is. And when a woman senses that you rely on her love to feel whole, she begins to feel something she never wanted to. Pressure. It may not be loud, it may not be spoken, but it's there. Because now, instead of choosing you freely, she feels like she's responsible for holding you together, and that burden, however subtle, begins to suffocate the very attraction that once brought you together. A woman doesn't want to feel like your identity crumbles in her absence. She wants to witness a man who continues to rise, even when she steps away. Not out of indifference, but out of strength. Because strength is what makes her feel safe. Strength is what allows her to admire you. And admiration is the seed from which love grows. You were someone before she came into your life. Someone with dreams, with values, with direction. Someone who didn't need her to complete the picture, but who may have hoped she'd color in a few of the edges. That man, the one who builds with or without an audience, who wakes up each day with a mission larger than himself, is the man she remembers, the man who drew her in, the man she hoped wouldn't lose himself in her. But some men do. They stop growing, they stop dreaming, they start shrinking their world around her. At first, it might feel romantic, being available, being attentive, saying yes to everything she needs. But soon, that devotion turns into dependency, and dependency slowly erodes the mystery, the depth, the masculine energy that once sparked her desire. You do not need her to make you feel worthy. You need to remember that your worth was never hers to give. It was always yours to claim. Your purpose cannot begin and end with a relationship. Your passions, your friendships, your calling in this life must continue to thrive, especially when you're in love, especially when she's watching, because she's not watching to see how much you revolve around her. She's watching to see how grounded you remain in your own center. Heal without her permission. Grow without her applause. Pursue your craft, even if she never claps. That kind of inner strength is what sets you apart. That kind of self-respect is what draws a woman closer. Not out of obligation, but out of admiration. The most attractive man in the room is not the one who needs her to love him. It's the one who already loves the man he's become. The one who welcomes love without being undone by its absence. The one who values connection, but never uses it to escape his own reflection. So don't try to become the man she wants. Become the man you were always meant to be. And if she chooses to walk beside you, it will be because she respects the path you're already walking. Because when your self-worth is rooted in who you are, not in who she sees, you become the kind of man she can't help but love. Not because she has to, but because she wants to. 4. Emotional strength is inner stability. Real strength is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't force its way into the room or demand to be seen. Emotional strength, the kind that truly matters to a woman, is the strength that remains unshaken when everything around it begins to fall apart. It's not about having every answer. It's not about being stoic in the sense of being cold. It's about being steady, especially when things are uncertain, unclear, or emotionally messy. Attraction isn't only built in moments of connection and harmony. It's tested quietly, deeply, when emotions rise and tension grows. A woman may not consciously intend to test your emotional stability, but life will. And how you respond in those moments of confusion will speak louder than anything you say in moments of ease. Women are deeply intuitive. They pick up on the subtle shifts, the slight change in your tone when they pull away, the neediness hiding behind your silence, the fear buried in your efforts to smooth everything over. If she senses that your emotions mirror hers too closely, that your peace is contingent on her mood, she will begin to feel something she may not be able to explain: unsafe. Because emotional safety is not created through control, nor through agreement, nor even through kindness alone. It's created through your ability to remain grounded when her heart feels like a storm, to listen without trying to fix, to witness her in her vulnerability without making it about your discomfort. She needs to feel that when she's unraveling, you don't unravel too. This doesn't mean you become emotionless. In fact, it means quite the opposite. It means you have mastery over your emotions, not suppression, but understanding, not avoidance, but discipline. You can feel anger without becoming destructive. You can feel sadness without losing your center. You can feel disappointment and still lead with clarity. That's what it means to be emotionally strong. That's what creates trust. Because a woman isn't looking for a man who has it all figured out. She's looking for a man who doesn't lose himself when things get messy, when she gets emotional, when plans fall apart, when uncertainty walks through the door. She wants to feel that your presence doesn't disappear the moment hers becomes heavy, that you don't shut down when she opens up, that your love isn't only available when she's easy to love. She wants a lighthouse, not a rescuer, not someone who fixes her problems, not someone who tries to silence her pain with positivity or logic, but someone who can shine steadily through her emotional fog, someone who holds his ground, not to dominate, not to dismiss, but to guide, to remind her, without saying a word, "You are safe here. You can fall apart, and I will not. You can be unsure, and I will not panic." It's in those moments, when she's unsure, afraid, maybe even pushing you away, that your emotional strength becomes the difference between being forgotten and being unforgettable. Not because you tried to prove yourself, but because you didn't flinch. You didn't chase. You didn't crumble. You just stayed steady. That steadiness, it's rare. It's what makes her feel like she can trust you with her heart. Because love, true love, is built on the freedom to be seen fully and still be held. Not physically, but emotionally. And a woman will never feel safe enough to fully open to a man whose emotions she feels she must manage. She doesn't need a man who reacts to every change in her. She needs a man who can stand tall when the waves rise, who doesn't demand perfection from her to stay calm within himself. A man who can offer stability without condition. Emotional strength is not about control, it's about presence. It's about the kind of presence that says, "I am not here to save you. I am here to walk beside you, even when the path is unclear." And when she feels that kind of strength, not just once, but over time, it reaches a place in her deeper than attraction. It speaks to her longing for safety, for trust, for partnership. You don't have to be the loudest man in the room. You don't have to be the wisest. But if you are the most stable, if you are the man who doesn't get lost when she does, then she will always remember you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were constant. And in love, that constancy, rooted in emotional strength, is everything. 5. Overcoming rejection and insecurities. Rejection is never easy. It cuts deep, not because of the person walking away, but because of what it awakens within us: old wounds, unanswered doubts, and fears that maybe we were never enough to begin with. But the truth is, you don't lose a woman the moment she becomes distant. You lose her the moment your insecurities begin speaking louder than your sense of self. You lose her the moment you stop leading your life and start reacting to your fears. Desperation is loud, it's heavy, it clings. And when it enters the room, it smothers any space where attraction once breathed. It shows up in frantic messages, in over-explaining, in the need to be reassured, not just once, but again and again. And a woman, especially one who is emotionally intelligent and tuned into herself, can feel it immediately. She can feel when your peace was only real as long as she was close. She can feel when her presence is no longer a gift to your life, but a requirement for your stability. The paradox is cruel but true. The more you chase her in your fear of losing her, the less she feels the desire to stay. Not because she doesn't care, but because she senses that she's no longer being loved freely, she's being clung to as a lifeline. And that isn't love. That's attachment dressed in anxiety. But when you hold your frame, when you stay rooted in your mission, your values, your growth, you shift everything. You stop broadcasting insecurity and start radiating quiet strength. You no longer send the message that your identity lives and dies with her attention. Instead, you embody something far more rare: grounded masculinity. The kind that doesn't need to prove its worth because it already knows what it brings to the table. A man who respects himself, even in the face of emotional uncertainty, is the man she doesn't want to lose. Not because he begged her to stay, not because he convinced her, but because in his presence She feels the weight of something unshakable, and that is unforgettable. It's easy to let fear take the wheel when things don't go the way you hoped. But fear is a terrible guide. It will tell you to send one more text, to fix something that isn't yours to fix, to compromise your boundaries just to feel safe again. And every time you do, you hand over your power, not to her, but to the very insecurity you're trying to silence. Confidence doesn't mean being unaffected. It means being disciplined enough not to let temporary emotions define your long-term character. It means understanding that rejection is not a verdict on your worth. Sometimes it's just redirection, a divine pause, a space being cleared so something better, something deeper, more aligned, can take root. But you only receive that gift if you allow it. If you don't rush to fill the void with someone else's attention. If you don't collapse into self-doubt. If you have the patience to sit in the silence and say, "Even this I will grow through." Because the man who knows where he's going, with or without her, is never truly rejected. He's refined, he's redirected, he's realigned with a deeper version of himself, and in time, either she will return, drawn back to the calm strength she didn't know she needed, or someone else will recognize it immediately and never take it for granted. You must understand, no woman is drawn to a man who places her above his purpose. That man becomes emotionally replaceable because he has no compass of his own. He orbits around her, hoping she'll define what he is, what he's worth, what he's allowed to feel. But a man who leads his life from within, who keeps building, creating, and evolving regardless of who stays or who leaves, that man becomes a force. And forces are hard to walk away from. So if she pulls back, don't fill the silence with panic. Fill it with progress. Go deeper into your craft. Strengthen your body. Sharpen your mind. Reconnect with your brothers, your mentors, your values. Let the distance from her be the space where your discipline sharpens and your vision clears. And most of all, speak to yourself with the respect you once tried to earn from her. Because the only rejection that can truly break you is the one that comes from within. You are not your worst moment. You are not the text she didn't answer or the plan she walked away from. You are who you choose to become next. And when you rise, not in anger, not in spite, but in stillness, in dignity, in quiet evolution, you become the kind of man who doesn't chase love because he is love. You become the kind of man who doesn't beg to be chosen because he already chose himself. And that is the man she will either return to or regret losing. 6. Becoming the best version of yourself. Becoming the best version of yourself isn't a slogan. It's a sacred responsibility, not just to impress others, and certainly not to win someone back. It's a promise you make to your future, a commitment to rise, not because someone walked away, but because you chose to walk toward who you were always meant to become. When she goes silent, when she pulls away or tests your stillness, that's not the time to chase. It's the time to evolve, because the truth is, she's not looking to see how quickly you react. She's watching to see whether your presence was real or if it was a mask that falls off the moment you're made to wait. Most men interpret that silence as punishment. They try to fill the void with noise, texting, posting, reaching out, proving. But what they don't understand is that silence is a mirror. It reflects exactly how whole or how hollow you truly are. If your sense of purpose crumbles the moment her attention fades, then you were never really grounded in your own life to begin with. Patience isn't passivity. It's not waiting for her to come back. It's not sitting in silence hoping she notices you've disappeared. Patience is power in its rawest, most disciplined form. It's choosing to stay calm while chaos calls your name. It's knowing that growth is happening even when the world looks like it's standing still. It's waking up every morning, putting in the work, investing in yourself, and trusting that what is meant for you will find you, not through force, but through alignment. You see, most men try to control the outcome. They obsess over whether she still cares, whether she's thinking of them, whether she'll come back. But obsession is a thief. It steals your time, your presence, your masculine edge, and the moment your life becomes centered around what she's doing, you lose the very magnetism that drew her to you in the first place. So, don't react, refocus. Let her silence be the space where your ambition sharpens. Let it be the canvas where you paint your next chapter. Hit the gym, not to prove something, but to remind yourself that strength is built, not given. Create without needing applause. Study, building practice, meditate, reflect. Surround yourself with men who challenge you, not comfort you. Cut out distractions that keep you small. Move with intention. Speak less, mean more. Because a man who is becoming doesn't ask for validation. He doesn't wait for someone to believe in him. He validates himself with action. He builds momentum with quiet discipline. He becomes so immersed in his purpose that whether she returns or not becomes secondary, not because he stopped caring, but because he started leading. And that kind of man, he doesn't just attract love, he inspires it. She may not say it, but she'll feel it. She'll sense that the energy she once felt from you has deepened, become richer, more stable. And if she truly loves you, she'll be drawn back, not because you pulled her in, but because she can feel the gravity of a man who no longer needs her attention to define his value. True love cannot be chased. It cannot be forced or manipulated into staying. It finds its way back to stillness. It returns to presence. And presence only exists in men who are rooted in something larger than validation. You don't become the best version of yourself by waiting. You become it by becoming. By being so invested in your own journey that you stop asking when or why and start showing up for you every day, without compromise, without excuse. And when she sees that, when she sees that you didn't just survive her silence, but thrived because of it, she'll remember why she was drawn to you in the first place. It won't be because you tried to prove your worth. It will be because you proved to yourself that you already had it. The best version of you isn't just stronger, smarter, more focused. It's quieter, more patient, less reactive. It's a version that doesn't just respond to love, it attracts it. Not through effort, but through presence. Not through pursuit, but through purpose. So keep building, keep rising, and if she loves you, truly loves you, she will feel that power and she will return to it. But even if she doesn't, you will have become the man you were always meant to be. And that is a reward no one can take from you. Final reflection. There's a quiet moment every man must face. The moment she pulls away, goes silent, stops reaching out. It's tempting to see that as the end, to panic, to chase what feels like it's slipping. But I've come to understand something deeper. That distance is not always an exit. Sometimes it's a test, not of your love for her, but of your love for yourself. The man she ignores today isn't always the one she's walking away from. Sometimes he's the man she's watching, the man she's hoping will stay grounded, the man she's silently asking, "Can you still be strong without my affection to hold you up?" And if he can hold his center without begging for reassurance, if he can stay composed without grasping for attention, something shifts. Let her wonder where your energy went. Let her feel the space you no longer fill with need. Let her come face to face with the weight of your absence and realize that stability like yours doesn't come around often. Because love that lasts isn't born from pursuit. It's born from presence. And when she sees that you didn't flinch, didn't fold, didn't fade, that you stayed still, not out of indifference, but out of unwavering self-respect. Then and only then does desire return, this time not from curiosity, but from admiration. That's when love stops testing and starts choosing. And if this message spoke to something deep within you, if you've ever found yourself caught between silence and uncertainty, remember this: your strength is not measured by how loud you react, but by how still you remain. At Stoic Station, we're not here to chase love. We're here to become men who attract it by who we are, not by what we say. So if you're ready to build unshakable presence, emotional strength, and a life rooted in purpose, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join a community of men who are walking the path of quiet power. Because at Stoic Station, we don't chase validation. We become the kind of men who no longer need it. See you in the next one.